Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Morning Minutes with myself, Michael Bergio, Mark Novak, and special guest Luke Maroney from Search Party Property here this morning to talk about the perfect harmony of working with what is a buyer's agent for starters, and also the perfect harmony between a selling agent and a buyer's agent, how we can work together to get a deal for both our respective clients. And Luke, welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Michael. It's great to be here with you guys and discuss property, because that's a great topic for everyone and everyone's involved, right?
Yes. So what is a buyer's agent? What's sort of your mantra, and what sort of talk us through a bit of a process when you meet a new client. So if a new client's out there and they've been wanting to get in contact with a buyer's agent, where does it sort of start? What can they expect from yourself?
I love the 18 questions. Thank you, Michael. And it is all about the mantra of us is to really, it's a wealth creation strategy for people. You know, we deal typically with investors, work with them in terms of growing that property portfolio. It's not about just buying one property, but it's about buying multiple properties that are increase your wealth creation now for into the future. So, people go and put their money into a super fund, but, I want to make my money now so that I'm having a path in life and, get the opportunity either to quit my 9-to-5 job, make more choices about travel, create more happiness for myself, spend more time with family and friends and so forth. So it is about that process of creating something or a life that you really want to live by design. And I think that's where we come about and what our mantra is. And I feel like I'm practicing what I preach. So I started investing in property back in 2002, got a property portfolio myself around the country. And, we want to do the same for other people. So in terms of what we do as a buyer's agent, we work on behalf of the buyer. So as real estate sales agents, you're working for the seller, getting the best price for the seller. We're looking to get the best price for the buyer. And you obviously Mark's got that symbol behind him, the yin and the yang. It's about us getting together with agents to get those great deals. And look, people are in certain situations sometimes that we can create a really good deal by working with, someone who is either motivated or needs to sell quickly, or might be in a situation they've already bought. And it's actually better for us to get into a position to actually buy that property quickly off them than have it stay on the market for 6 months and then have them to reduce their price over time. So quick sales are often very lucrative for that person to get into their next property. So they're not actually paying bridging finance or anything like that. So there's a whole bunch of different reasons why we can, obviously do really well for the sellers, but also do really well for our clients as the buyers as well. And that's where you get that synergy of working together on a deal.
How much do you pay a buyer's agent?
So what we charge is 14,000 plus GST for the work that we do for clients. Our value properties, it's basically across the board. On lower price properties that are under 250, we look to give a discount for people in that type of realm, but generally it's 14,000 plus GST on a purchase. What we try to do, our value component, is to look at, what the comparative market sales are at the time on particular, comparable sales in the marketplace. And if we can get a price lower than what the fee that we charge, then we've given extra value. Now we've built respect and rapport and relationships with these agents over many years for us to get some good property deals. So agents are basically getting on the phone, calling us and saying, okay, Luke, Mark, we've got property. So Mark is my business partner, I should say. And we've got property that is looking to go to the market in a couple of weeks. Well, how about you, find out from your clients if you've got any buyers, and then we go out to our client base and then reach out. And then if someone is really keen, then we start negotiating on the property deal. And our idea is, obviously, if we can get it, significantly below what the market sales are, then our buyers get a really good price for that particular property.
One thing I reckon as well, I know it's the easiest way to measure it is the perceived value, how much lower. But I think there's huge value in the due diligence that goes behind the scenes. And I know it's very, very hard to actually put a value on that to sell to your clients, because I think that's more valuable than potentially getting the price lower than $5,000. Actually knowing which properties to buy and having the correct resources, potential, is there development, looking over the resources. I feel that's more valuable than saving $5,000 on a property that way.
Oh, absolutely, Michael. A couple of things just to mention in that regards, like, where is there high voltage power lines just nearby? So are people doing the due diligence around that? Are you in situations where, there's flooding on that particular property? Is there underground mining that's happened at the property as well? I know the Central Coast, parts of Ipswich up in Brisbane have that sort of situation. So you've got to stay away from that, because it probably puts you in a situation where future development could be an issue in the area. Also, if you're looking to develop those properties, does it have side access to do a subdivision at the back or a granny flat at the back of that property? Or is it a walk-up sort of situation when you're building that granny flat? There's all these situations that come into play of getting not only, lowering your risk on that particular property when you're buying it, but that's future potential for growth on that particular property. Another thing that's a little bit quirky is, something of buying a property near a bat colony. So a bat colony. So think about like the type of tenants, you're going to get. Someone might be in there for a month or so, hearing all these bats all the time. And then it was like, you're not going to be able to rent that. So living over in the next suburb or down the road, you're going to get a better tenant at the property, and you're not going to have these sort of noise situations. So little quirky things that as a buyer's agent, that we know our markets and we know where to buy and where to stay away from.
And then, what were you going to say, Mike?
So with a buyer's agent, do you go everywhere in Australia? Or if I want to buy a property in, say, the North Shore, I may say I want to buy something in Mossman, Cremorne, Neutral Bay, can a buyer's agent have the ability to, or you just give that buyer's agent a bag of cash, $500,000, and say, look, off you go, find something for me?
Yeah, look, when we start out with a particular client, we, obviously look through their strategy and the plan. And if they are hell-bent on actually going to a particular suburb and they've got the budget to do so, then we can go out. We'll either do it ourselves or work with, maybe a joint venture with other buyers agents. And we've worked with them in the past where they might have a client, we might have a property, and then vice versa. So that can really work well, where we can get a really good deal for someone. So yeah, we can go all over Australia to make a property deal get done. And, but I guess what we're looking at in terms of what we do most of the time is the investment purchase. Where's the best place for your money right now? But yes, you're right, Mark. We can go all over Australia to make a deal happen.
We've got a question here from Michael Edwards. He's asked, do you manage the investments as well, or just the purchase transaction?
Yeah, so we have, short answer is the purchase, and then have property managers like yourselves look after the properties for clients. So, we basically just stay in our lane. So, it's holding your hand throughout the purchase from the time that you plan and strategy stage through the purchase. Obviously get the team of professionals, like I said, about a property manager, but conveyancer, a person building company, it might be a builder to check on that subdivision or granny flat. So they might give some advice around that for us, for our clients. So that extra value add on a particular purchase, if you're doing a granny flat subdivision or other things on the property.
What would be your advice to selling agent, buyers agents out there to work together? Because I know in my experience, and it's all buyers agents are different. It's just like selling agents. You got the good ones, you got the bad ones, you got the great ones.
Absolutely.
And sometimes I find that sometimes buyers agents, they're flexing their muscle too much to get the price lower. And obviously the selling agent is working in the best interest of the owner, and the deal just doesn't work. There's just this tension there. They flex too hard. We all know, you have that buyer that comes out and says everything wrong with the property, and it's like, well, then why are you offering to buy it? And I think a lot of selling agents, when you got a listing, you almost treat it like your own, and then you've got someone telling you all these negative things and then putting an offer forward. What's the best advice to probably buyers agents to work with selling agents for that harmony? Yes, you want to get a great price, but I reckon there's some buyers agents that they're out there flexing their muscle too hard that they actually never get a deal across because they just put off either the agents they're working with or even worse, the owners with that.
Well, short answer would be you've got to be a good bloke, good girl, and you've just got to be honest and upfront about what your objectives are.
Yes.
Like,
you'd be a good girl, Michael.
You've got to be a great girl. And just come out with some honesty around what's going on and just be kind and nice in your dealings. It's not about being ruthless.
Yeah.
That's a short-term thought process. It goes back to mindset. How are you building your relationships and the rapport with the selling agents? They're your suppliers, right? So you've got to put yourself in the best light forward. It's about that yin and yang, like you said, doing a deal. So sometimes, like the difference in us talking to clients and go, okay, if you go up at like $2,000 or $1,000 or whatever it might be, just to get the deal done, is it the pain and agony you want to go through just to miss out on that deal right now? Or can we help each other to get the deal done? Because in 5 years or 10 years time, that $1,000 is not going to matter when your property grows by $100 or $200 or $400,000, right? So people need to think about what that short-term little amounts really amount to, and whether you can actually get the deal done. But so I think you just really need to be nice in the dealing. So if you're in a situation, Michael, that a property is worth $800,000 or $500,000, and then you're just like, we're in the position, okay, our client probably wants it for 780, just say, and you're, it was like, well, okay, they're at this price. If your seller wants to come down to this price, then we can meet that deal. If not, then that's okay. We'll let that one go. It's just on, if we start to go around and say, well, that's wrong with that, that's wrong with that, there's some issues with the kitchen, there's some issue with the bathroom, there's waterproofing issues. Oh, that's going to be a $40,000 discount, or we're not going to buy. It's a different conversation that you're having. So it's about conversations, rapport, respect, and, I guess transparency in the process. We've got a client, they're at this level. If your seller wants to meet at this level, we can do a deal. If not, happy to let it go. And you guys know straight up front.
So guys and girls, we're talking with buyer's agent Luke Maroney this morning. And Luke, another question I had was, how many transactions would a buyer's agent do in the course of a year in terms of buys for clients? And what's your shining example where you go, damn, that was a good deal? Like maybe it was a really easy purchase for the client. Maybe they would have made a lot of money very quickly.
So, I guess a buyer's agent that is, we've been running for 2 years. You probably want to be doing, upwards of 50 plus transactions a year as a buyer's agency. And it depends on the size. Some of the guys that have been established and have been 10 to 15 years, they're probably doing upwards of 200 transactions a year. But those that are just starting out in the industry, 50 plus transactions is a good number to work with in first starting out. In terms of property deals, I think something that comes to mind on the lower end right now is a purchase, and we've actually got a couple of examples that are coming up in the same block, but it's a 2-bedroom townhouse. It's actually 3-bedroom townhouse. It's about 40 Ks from the Brisbane CBD, where they're about 5 years old, this complex. Yes, there's quite a few in the complex. They're built really well, so there's no issues with, defects or anything like that. We're getting those at, we bought the first one in there at 190,000, and it's achieving 300 a week in rent. So super high in cash flow. The probably comparable sales before this one were about, I think 230. So significant discounts on that. We should be able to get some of those subsequent sales that, a couple are coming to the market very soon at around about the 200 range. And they probably, look a little bit better inside from the one that was previously purchased. So that's on the lower range. Others that we're getting through in terms of, what we really like right now, I guess for clients through these tough times, is, a 2-income property already set up, ready to go. They sort of advertise or market comparables at around about that $500,000 mark. We're able to pick one up for $460 last week, and it's achieving $600 a week in rent, and that's two income. So house and granny flat, or it might be a dual income where we've got a house and attached granny flat, or the house or the duplex setup as well. So they're kind of some properties that we're looking at the moment, and some really good deals for clients. And I think there's certain people looking at subdivisions, so forth, but a low risk strategy right now is those high cash flow plays, Mark.
Yeah. And so when does a buyer's agent get paid? Is it when they exchange on a property, settle, or is it up front? And if it takes 6 months, they've got paid on day one? Is it stage payments?
It's normally a stage payment. We do an initial engagement fee, so a lower amount to start off with, and then the remainder at unconditional stage or after the cool off period. So that's generally when that staged process happens. And then once you're unconditional, it's basically you're going to go through to the purchase and make it happen. So it's all sort of almost guaranteed.
And are you paid separately from the buyer, or somehow you get paid on the settlement? How do you get your money?
It's separate from the buyer pays it directly to us, not through the settlement.
Okay. What was my other question?
Can the buyer lend the money from the bank to pay you?
I think that you've got to be very careful in that sort of situation. It's there is a process that buyers can potentially have a look at. You probably need to speak to your mortgage broker around that and see if that can be incorporated. It really depends on the value of the purchase that or the discount you're getting on that particular purchase compared to the market prices. What you've got to be careful, and what is kind of illegal to do, is load up the contract. So if you've got a purchase price of $450, you put the buyer's agent fee above that, and then some people have put solicitors costs or conveyancing costs in there, stamp duty costs in there as well, and it's actually illegal to actually load up a contract. The big thing is to get the valuation at that top price, and if you can't get that top price, you can't finance all those things anyway. So a little bit of a legal component. I know Christine's on here. She might be able to help with the conveyancing or side of things, and whether you can actually do that in sort of legal wise. But it's a conversation again with your mortgage broker around that as well.
Is it tax deductible, your fee?
This is generally with the buyer's agency fee, it is a capital expense. If you've got a situation where you've got an education component about what you do, that's where it can be tax deductible. So being very careful in the wording of different things, and obviously the makeup of what you do. So you normally a buyer's agency fee as a standard principle. It is in a position where it's a capital expense on the property. So you can only claim that when you actually sell that property.
Okay.
Got it.
Mal, thanks for jumping on. Catherine, good morning. Ray Price, good to see you. Christine, buyer's agent. What's the comment here? Sorry. A buyer's agent is good relationship with agents, know what to look for in the property, and can put the numbers together, make a great deal. A conveyancer will take the matter through to settlement. Perfect. Anything else you want to add on to that, Mark?
Before we wrap it up, I wanted to ask, what do you reckon the market's going to do in the next 12, 24, 36 months? Because you're talking to a lot of buyers agents, and a lot of real estate agents. What's the word on the street? What's your opinion?
Sydney market.
Sydney market.
Here we go. I think things are going to probably, I think we've already seen a little bit of a dip in the Sydney market, 5-10%. There's a potential of it to go maybe down another 5-10%. You probably won't like hearing that. I think there's a little bit of risk in the marketplace, but it's either 5 or 10% or remaining stable. And it really depends on how many listings, for me, that come onto the marketplace. If we see the numbers low and can remain low for the next 12 to 18 months, then we won't see prices move at all. They'll stay stable. And then beyond that, there's going to come a point in time where there is more activity I think the big trigger will be immigration into Australia. So when Scott Morrison gives the big tick of approval to bring 200, 500,000 people in the country, it's really going to bolster the Sydney property prices at that stage. I think the big markets that are going to do well or hold up best is those affordable markets. And I know, as an example, DY is more affordable than sort of the Manly areas. And you can still get transportation coming into, you know, into the city and so forth. So affordable markets will hold up so much better than your more expensive markets. And that's been proven. Like, you got Sydney CBD right now struggling in terms of rental vacancies, 13% or something like right now. You know, my property's up in Brisbane at the moment. I've had no rental vacancies, and I've got, you know, 20 odd rentals up in Brisbane that I manage on my own portfolio. 0 vacancies on those. And I know clients are experiencing the same sort of thing as well.
So the bread and butter stuff should fare better than the luxe.
Yeah, you know, lower than the median price of that suburb, I'd say. Like if you go, you know, into DY as an example, and you go 4 streets back off the beach, or you probably, you know, maybe 10, 15 streets back of the beach, and they're like a three bedroom basic house that is, you know, below the median price of that suburb, I think they'll hold up really well.
There, if you're looking to buy outside of an area or in your area, look at the median price and look to go a little bit below. That's a good little reference point if you are looking at different suburbs. And that way, yeah, I like that. I like that little hack.
And I guess, you know, those properties that have a little quirk to them, it might be a granny flat you can build at the back. You might not build the granny flat right now, but it might be that future potential for that property that someone else, an investor or someone who does a knockdown rebuild, you know, works on that particular property in future. So it is, you know, what are the ways right now during these tough times? And I always talk about low risk, cash flow, potential for growth. And every property is going to be a little bit different, even within a suburb. Yeah. And that's what's important. And that's where the buyer's agent provides that value of getting those unique opportunities, you know, when we're purchasing for clients.
Hey, you didn't answer my question.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
12, 24, 36 months.
Okay,
What's it
12
gonna do,
months.
Sydney?
12 months. 12 months.
You
Sydney.
dodged the question.
No, I will. I'm happy to answer the question. I kind of did it very general. Sydney property market down in 12 months, 15%.
Yep.
From the peaks. So I'd say that would be
not from now.
From now, or when do you want it from now?
What do you reckon the next 12, 24 and 36 months the Sydney property market's going to do from? So.
Yeah. All right, another 10% down from here.
Yep. 10%. 12 months. 12 months.
24 months, remaining about the same, if not down another 5%.
Okay. Maybe 5. Got it.
And then
the 12 months after that?
Up 5, 10%.
50.
Probably 5%, I'd say.
Okay, beautiful.
So it's going to be a very gentle U curve in your opinion.
Yes. And you know, it reminds me, Mark, back of the period between 2002 and 2012, where we had very little, if not any, growth in Sydney property, and we didn't have a coronavirus at all. And
people during that time still bought, still sold. If you need a larger home or you need to downsize, people are still going to do that transaction out there as well. So it just...
What do you see, Mark, in the property markets?
Sorry, say that again?
Mark, what do you see in the property markets 12, 24 and 36 months?
I reckon we're going to be, from now to the next 12 months, probably 0 to 5% negative. I think that the 12 to 24 months, I think we'll start to see positive 5%. I think there'll be a bit of a pent-up demand. And then I think after that, it's going to be probably another 5%. But I reckon the real challenge is going to be financing for people, because that's tying back to all those factors that we've spoken about today, like immigration. I think you're totally right. It's important. Travel important, which is actually travel as well built into that. Yeah. Which is jobs built into that. So I think that whole lend, to keep it simple, if those banks decide to get a little bit friendly, that's really going to help our property prices. If the banks decide to get nasty, and I know we've spoken about it, Michael. I think you were watching, Luke. I think it's very interesting to see how the banks are going to perceive COVID with their customers. Technically, they're saying it's put it on top of your loan. Technically, they're saying we can't we can't hammer anyone through COVID. But I just can't help to think that they're scoring us or rating us through this period. And when we look to get a loan in 6 to 18 months' time, that they're not going to ask the direct question, but they're going to look how you performed as a customer in this period.
Character reference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, I think, it's such a wait and see environment right now, Mark, and I agree with you. You kind of it's easy for us to go, oh, this is prediction for the next, 12, 24, 36 months, but we've got to wait for those triggers. If Scott Morrison doesn't open up the doors in immigration, we're not going to see that big, rise in prices, because we need that, because we've lost all the students, we've lost all the working visa people at the moment. They've just gone back home. You've seen that through the vacancy rates in some of those expensive areas around Sydney. So when we see those triggers, and we've got to see what the banks do. At the moment, the banks and the lenders, they're controlling the market right now.
And that's where I sort of feel it could work. If you look at our levers of an economy of what brings in income, as you said, student education, travel, immigration, and then also our trade, all those markets are some are just gone and some are sort of on pause at the moment. I feel that the property market's going to be one of the only mechanisms we have as an economy to really stimulate an economy moving forward. So I think there could be, if not an artificial surge, if they really make lending very friendly, maybe even too friendly, because they need the wheels turning and some sort of income generating, and then to sort of back up the economy while the other levers are not in motion. So the banks could come really, really friendly, because otherwise what source of income are we really going to have? So that could be...
What are you guys thinking about what the Property Council came out with about the $50,000? Have you spoken about that yet?
No. I all the, like last week it was stamp duty. This week it's 50 grand. Where'd stamp duty talk go? It's like
the property market.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's rhetoric,
it's almost
right?
Yeah.
And I've got a question for you both as well. I put a post up the other day. Is property simple?
Yeah.
As in the purchasing, or just
is property simple?
Yep.
Yeah. And I think it's the people who don't make it simple really struggle with the concepts, which property to buy. I think when you got to make property simple, you got to believe it's the way to your retirement and wealth creation. There's not many other aspects of wealth creation you can do with basically not much education in that field. If you're looking at stocks and shares, you really want to analyze. If you're starting a company for wealth creation, you need to have that product and that entrepreneurship. Properties are pretty simple, low-hanging fruit for wealth creation. So keep it simple, and it will be. You make it complicated.
And I think that's a wrap, lads. That's a wrap. But anything else we want to educate people on?
Just buy, Mark, right? That's what it's all about. Just keep it simple.
Hold, buy. And Luke, thank you so much for today. Hopefully we've educated people a little bit about on what you do in work and the value you bring to customers. And it's definitely, I think that agents, sellers are well represented by agents, and I think buyers are well presented by their uncles and aunties and mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters. So it's nice to have pros looking after buyers.
Yes, perfect. And Luke,
thanks, guys.
I'll put your details in the comments as well, and I'll put it in the post so everyone call you if they need.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Great. Thanks.
Bye.
See you guys. Have a great day.